jack it up.
Hurts keeps, Hurts cuts, Hurts has the first down, and Jalen Hurts might have just put it away for the Eagles. Touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey and the Sixers are going to win this game. Joel, tough turnaround in the lane. Another 30-10 performance for Joel Embiid.
Hurts connects with Devontae Smith.
Welcome back to 2 and 5 Scoop. We are glad to be back after 2 weeks. It's been very, very hectic for both of us. As college students, we've had, the last week of classes and then finals. But now that's all done with. Now we can just focus on some holiday football. Asher, how you doing?
I'm good. I feel like there's a weight off my shoulders now. Like, it definitely was a lot trying to watch Sixers, watch Eagles.
Yeah.
All the final assignments, actual final exams. And now it's just like I get to focus on sitting back, relaxing, watching the Eagles. So
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a relief. I mean, this semester was a lot. Honestly, I had a lot of work.
Same here.
Yeah, I mean, I switched my major, so it was just like a whole different experience. Plus, I was at Penn State, Maine for my first semester, so that was an experience. But it's been a hell of a ride so far. But I'm glad to be done. Honestly, really glad. But this past weekend, these past 2 weekends, we've watched the Eagles kind of whoop up on their opponents. They beat the Titans 2 weeks ago, 35-10. And then this past weekend, they beat the division rival Giants 48-22, clinching their playoff spot, moving to 12-1. Jalen Hurts once again goes off. He had 217 yards passing for 2 touchdowns and 7 rushes for 77 yards. Yep. Sanders had himself a day. He had 144 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And with all those numbers being said, really mind-boggling stat, which was the Eagles now have 3 players with 10 touchdowns from scrimmage. The Jalen Hurts has 10 touchdowns rushing. A.J. Brown has 10 touchdowns receiving. And Miles Sanders has 10 rushing touchdowns. So we have quite the offense going on. That seems pretty unstoppable at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, these have definitely been our 2 best offensive showings of the year.
Yes.
So very encouraging that it comes towards the end of the year when you're trying to build momentum for the playoffs. Also very encouraging that it comes after the Colts game, after the Commanders game, where it kind of seems like we were slowing down. Maybe we were being figured out. Mm-hmm. And now it's like we just beat 2 teams handily that are over 500, that are very much in the playoff race. Titans pretty much have that division locked up. So we're not hearing the doubters about our strength of schedule anymore. So it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, it's been really nice seeing the Eagles kind of go and prove the doubters wrong. I mean, I went on rants on here multiple times, and even on the TikTok about how the Eagles fraud, like Eagles equal frauds, that whole narrative is bullcrap. Well, now the Eagles actually have some material to back. What?
We're like the 11-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, or
comparing us to the 2020 Steelers. Like, no, this team is so much more dominant than the Steelers. Remember that 2020 Steelers team had Ben Roethlisberger, who couldn't throw a ball further than 15 yards. We have Jalen Hurts, who has vastly improved his deep ball completion percentage. I wish I grabbed the advanced stats, but if you look at the advanced stats for his long passes, like, he's first in every single category, passing wise. I wish I had those on the tip of my fingers right now, but I don't. But he's doing really well passing this year. But yeah, overall, Asher, what were your takeaways from this weekend and the weekend prior?
My biggest takeaways, other than the way that the offense has been performing, just firing on all cylinders, is the rushing defense. Like, obviously, our biggest weakness, that Commanders game, teams are kind of thinking, okay, the blueprint to beat this team is run the ball. Because that's their pretty much their only weakness, definitely their biggest weakness.
Yes.
Past 2 weeks, we faced Derrick Henry and we faced Saquon Barkley, held them both to under 35 yards, somewhere within the neighborhood of like 3 yards per carry for each of them, which is just atrocious. Really good for our defense.
Yeah.
The number 1 rusher on each team was their quarterback. So Ryan Tannehill for the Titans, Tyrod Taylor for the Giants. So a guy who was only playing the second half of the quarter was their rushing leader.
Yeah, and it just makes me step back and think, are the Eagles really just like unstoppable right now? I mean, you can't beat them with the run, you can't beat them with the pass. We have the largest turnover differential in the league. On offense, we can beat you running the ball, we can beat you passing the ball. There's so many ways that the Eagles can beat you, and it's kind of finally hitting me that like this team is probably one of the most dominant Eagles teams I've ever witnessed. You know?
Yeah, no, this is right up there with the 2014, which we didn't even get to see.
Yeah.
Definitely up there with that 2017 team. So like this Eagles team is one for the books, really,
mean-
regardless of what happens in the playoffs.
I mean, honestly, would you say that this team is better or worse than the 2017 team?
I think this team's probably better. I feel like that 2017 team had like a different vibe to it.
Mhm.
Like just considering that was our first Super Bowl, and
Mhm.
like you could kind of feel like that we were headed there.
Mhm.
And then like the Nick Foles magic.
Right.
Obviously, we've yet to see what this team can do in the playoffs, but just
Mhm.
that entire year felt very magical,
Yeah.
apart from the Carson Wentz injury. So
Yeah, I mean, you have a very good point. And also, I want to touch on that 2017 Eagles defense. I mean, it wasn't up there as like one of the best in the league. I mean, no doubts that we have one of the best defensive lines, and we rushed the passer and we were great up front, but our back end was still a little shaky sometimes. And
that's true.
with this team, there's no holes. I mean, for the first time, we have two really, really, really good corners. I can't remember the last time we had one. I mean, we had Darius Slay for the past few years, but like before that, we went through the Namdi Asamoahs and all of them. And now we have two shutdown corners who are, I think they're both ranked in the top 5 as far as like PFF, play Pro Football Focus grades or something like that. I think they're both top 5.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much as far as I've seen on different like reporting sites. This is the consensus #1 secondary in the league, which is like crazy to think when you think about the years that we had Bradley Fletcher and Kerry Williams as our 1 and 2 corners.
Byron Maxwell.
Byron Maxwell, the non-Diasamoah contract, the Byron Maxwell contract, like we deserve this as Eagles fans.
Yes, it's about damn time where we had really, really good corners and really good secondary. But watching Jalen Hurts this past weekend, I know we've kind of raised this question on this podcast before, but like it seems now, I say this every single week, but like it seems now, like every single week we come back, and the case for MVP for Jalen Hurts is just stronger and stronger. And after seeing the Chiefs, like that Chiefs Broncos game, I mean, it's a division game. Of course, it's going to be closer than you think, but like, I wasn't that impressed with the Chiefs. I mean, there's a reason why they kind of dropped on everybody's power rankings. I mean, they were like up there with the Eagles, and now they're down to like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So like, is Jalen seriously kind of leapfrogging Patrick Mahomes right now? Like, is that what's happening? Seriously?
I mean, on betting sites, he's now the odds-on MVP favorite.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about. I just like it's kind of mind-boggling to me because beginning of the season we were talking about, oh, is he going to be our starting quarterback for next season? Now we're talking about an MVP candidate. So this season, I mean, I'm going to compare it to the 2017 season. This season has been magical in other ways, I think, than the 2017 season. This season has been magical in just watching this team mesh. Like all the pieces just come together and just like work. Same thing happened in 2017, but I feel like this team is more just purely dominant. And the 2017 team kind of just caught lightning in a bottle.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of felt like the dream team. What was that, a decade ago now?
Yeah.
It was very much a similar thing where we're picking up big free agent signings, like kind of putting like this all-star team together, and then everything falls through. And this year, a very similar thing happened in the offseason, and then kind of we not only lived up to but exceeded those expectations. The 2017 team, it was more like there were no expectations going into that season, and Carson Wentz was just incredible.
Right.
And I think the team kind of rallied around him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Carson Wentz was just Houdini that season in the pocket. He just danced around and everything. But outside of that, there was some beef that went on between Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons, Penn State alumni, and Jalen Hurts. Parsons had something to say this week as far as the MVP conversation and Jalen Hurts, and he said, "quote Is it Hurts or the team?" He asked this on a podcast with Von Miller. What does I see his point where the Eagles have receivers like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and you got the backfield with Miles Sanders, and you got a great offensive line. As much as this comment pisses me off, do you think he kind of has a point? Do you think there's some sort of there's good reasoning behind it? Do you think?
No. You look at it. I mean, you talked about it a little bit. There were questions this season whether this was a prove-it season for Jalen Hurts. Are you the franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles? You look at his film from last season, you look at his film from this season, it's night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it again and again after every great game he has, and he just keeps having great games. He reads the field so much better. His legs are used as a secondary option more than before, where it was a primary option, and he only really threw when he had his first read open. So I mean, he just hurts the defense in so many ways now. Yes, the team around him is better, but he is just so much more well equipped this year to take advantage of that.
And it's even showing up in the statistics. Like I said, I should have gathered all the stats. I wish Sean were here because he's
the stat
man. He's the stat guy. But I mean, it just shows up in the stats. I mean, his presence in the pocket is better. His stats as a pocket passer have drastically improved. He stays in the pocket more. He's more poised. He delivers the ball with confidence. His accuracy is so much better. It's just showing up everywhere. But I do get where Mike is coming from, in terms of I'm not agreeing with him, but I do get the he's throwing to AJ Brown and all these different guys, and Patrick Mahomes is dealing with Juju Smith-Schuster. The talent around Patrick Mahomes is a little bit less than it is around Jalen Hurts. So I get his argument, but the most amusing part of this is that Jordan Mailata came back at Micah Parsons, and he was like, how about you focus on your game this week rather than on Jalen Hurts, which was really, really good response to that. That's probably the best response he could have came up with.
Yeah, I think he also said something along the lines of, we're not worried about that comment. We're playing the Chicago Bears this week, not the Chicago Micah Parsons.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah.
I mean, everyone on this team, Kelsey, Hurts, Mailata, anyone that's gotten interviewed and done any press conferences, everyone's just locked in.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is just. I mean, the culture is just great. I mean, they're taking it one game at a time. It doesn't feel like this team is looking ahead. It's really nice. And honestly, I'm going to be really sad when Kelsey leaves, because I feel like he brings that culture. I mean, Jalen Hurts is there, but Kelsey is the hard head. He's the one who's you got to focus, you got to stay at it. And I really hope he stays in the organization as a coach or something,
Yeah.
Because he just brings something to the table that is unlike anything. But yeah, any last thoughts on that?
My last thought is that we've talked about Hurts's MVP case pretty much since halfway through the season.
Yeah.
And I was always saying yes, it's possible, but Mahomes is way ahead of the field. And this is the first week that I really feel there's something there. The Chiefs have been dropping off a little bit, like you said. Hurts has been turning it up. When you look at the stats between him and Mahomes now, when you add in his rushing production, it's real close now.
Yeah.
I really feel like it could happen.
I mean, Jalen Hurts is kind of reminding me of Russell Wilson. I mean, am I wrong? I think he's really starting to bloom into a Russell Wilson-esque player. Not current Russell Wilson, but 2013 Russell Wilson.
Yeah. No, definitely. The fact that he is able to use both he's a true dual threat player now, whereas before it was run first, pass if you have to. And now he can really hurt defenses in a lot of ways. He's very elusive. He doesn't get hit. he always he's very good at sliding when he does break off from
Mhm.
line of scrimmage. So and a lot of it reminds me of watching Russ.
Yeah. Now moving on to outside of the Eagles, this week we have a lot of excitement. Last night we watched the Niners clinch the NFC West with a 21-13 win over against the Seattle Seahawks. This weekend we have more clinching scenarios coming your way. That this entails the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills can clinch a playoff berth with a win. And then there's a bunch of scenarios where they tie, but that's highly unlikely.
Right.
The Chiefs clinch the AFC West with a win over the Texans or a Chargers loss, or the Chargers and Chiefs both tie, which is really weird. The Cowboys, they clinched the playoffs with a win over the Jaguars or a Seahawks loss, which has already happened, and a Detroit loss, or a Seahawks loss, which again has already happened, and a Washington loss. So the Cowboys can still make the playoffs if they drop the game this week. The Vikings, they clinched the North with a win or a Lions loss. And that just about wraps up the clinching scenarios. So lots to look forward to this weekend outside the Eagles. The Eagles play the Bears. I'm not too worried about that game. So I'm more going to be looking towards other teams like the Vikings, looking at that game, looking what they're doing. So yeah, we have highlighted some games of the week. So first game of the week, we have the Bengals and Buccaneers. The Bengals, I believe, are favored by 4.5.
3.5. That's the spread I saw on one site. It varies from site to site, but
yeah. So the Bengals are favored by 3. Looking at that game, Asher, there's some implications. The Bucs are kind of still staying afloat for the NFC South. This is kind of like a do or die game for them. They got the Panthers and the Falcons right behind them. The Bengals are looking to get a little bit of separation in the AFC North. They're currently tied for first with the Ravens. Really, really exciting game. Lots of playoff implications here. How do you see this game playing out?
This one, of the 4 games that we highlighted, was the hardest one for me to pick because it's Tom Brady at home. It's like you said, I don't think it's quite do or die situation just yet, but it's really getting there. That's when Brady's at his best. I think there's definitely a large chance that they cover that spread and either win the game or lose by a field goal or less. But I just think the Bengals are so much more talented than them. The Bengals are a really complete team. The Buccaneers are still it's week 15 and they're still kind of looking to find their identity, find their footing.
Right.
So I'm going to take the Bengals to cover.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that pick. I think the Bengals, I mean, they seem, again, same as last year. They got hot at the right time. It seems like we're getting a little bit of deja vu this year. Joe Burrow's heating up at the right time. They're really gaining momentum. I like the Bengals over the Bucs. Tom Brady just isn't himself this year. I think this is kind of like this is we've seen a lot of un-Tom Brady-esque moments this year. I think this is another one of those games where it's like that's not very Tom Brady-esque to lose a game that's this crucial to a season. I like the Bengals. I agree with you absolutely. Next game we have is the Lions and against the Jets. Both teams trying to hang on to the playoff hopes in this game. Pretty much whichever team loses, their playoff hopes are pretty much done for.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about this game? I believe the spread is 1.5, if I'm not
1.5 in Detroit's favor.
Yeah.
So first of all, how fun is it that it's 3 weeks before the season ends and the Lions and the Jets are playing for the playoffs?
I love to see it. I love to see it. It's awesome. I'm really rooting for both teams.
This is of every game that's not the Eagles game, and even the Eagles game isn't that interesting, honestly, this week.
Right.
This is my most fun game of the week. A little Zach Wilson redemption arc, maybe.
Yeah.
The Lions trying to run the table to make it into the playoffs after a 1-5 start. There's a lot of fun to be had in this game, I think. Yeah. And I believe in Zach Wilson. I don't like his comments. I think he did lose control of the team a little bit. But I think the talent is still there, and that Detroit defense just isn't that great. So I've got the Jets covering that spread at home.
Okay. I disagree with you there. I don't like Zach Wilson. I don't like him one bit. I think he's the one glaring weakness on the Jets. And I think the Jets are a better team with Mike White, in my opinion. I think Zach Wilson is that much of a cancer to the team. I think he's completely lost the locker room. I don't think anybody really wants to play with him. He's snarky. He's pretentious. Just not a good guy to be a leader of this team. As for the Lions, they're feisty. They've been feisty all year long. They gave the Bills trouble. I see the Lions pulling it out here. I think they have a lot of heart. I would love to see the Jets succeed, but honestly, I mean, if I'm being honest, if Mike White was starting for the Jets, I would pick the Jets. I would pick the Jets, but because Zach Wilson is starting, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm going with the Lions to beat the Jets, cover the spread. Not a large spread, so but I like the Lions here.
All right. What do we have next?
The next game we have the Dolphins and the Bills, which is a huge AFC East matchup. First and second in the AFC East. I think the Dolphins are kind of trying to cling on to their playoff hopes as well. The Bills are trying to find their stride. They've looked kind of a little iffy the past few weeks. So this game's just interesting because it's a division game. We got two playoff contenders here. And yeah, how do you see this game playing out?
So, Buffalo 7-point favorites in this game. Pretty large spread for two teams that are, I think, one game apart.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me. I believe the Dolphins are 8-5, and the Bills are
9-3. Okay.
9-3, 9-4, or something like that.
They have 9 wins.
Yeah.
And it's a divisional matchup. You would expect the spread to be smaller, I think. Regardless, I think the Bills are – I have basically as much confidence in the Bills as I did at the beginning of the season when they were Super Bowl favorites. I think they've slipped in a couple games, but all those games have been pretty close. One of them was in Miami. So, one of them was in New York versus the Jets. So they've all been close games. And I feel like they cover. I feel like they're finding their stride at the right time. Another team that's doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, I just want to see some fun, honestly. I like the Dolphins here. I like the Dolphins to give some trouble. We've seen the Dolphins. This is probably doesn't mean anything, but in the past we've seen the Dolphins kind of like be party poopers at the end of the season. And now the Dolphins have like a real chance to win this division. But I like the Dolphins to at least cover the spread. But I wouldn't even take them to win. I don't have a specific reason. It's a division game. Anything can happen. It's Tua time. So, big believer in Tua. He's really, really proved a lot about himself this season. And is Josh Allen still dealing with an injury with that elbow or shoulder?
Yes, I do believe he's playing. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but he's playing through an injury, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, he's a tough guy, though. It's honestly not really something that I'm concerned about.
Okay. Yeah, but we'll see what happens. I mean, that game can really go either way. It's a division game, but I like the Dolphins to at least cover that spread.
Okay.
Last game we have for this week's slate is NFC East matchup. We got the Commanders and the Giants. Once again, both teams are kind of trying to hold on to their playoff hopes. One's trying to just stay on pace. They're both sitting at 7. The Giants are 7-5-1, and so are the Commanders.
Yeah, they're both 7-5-1.
Because they just tied 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
So there's a tie last time they met 2 weeks ago. This week they meet again. Huge implications for both teams. Where do you see it going, Ash?
Yeah, so the stakes on this game have dropped a little bit now that Seattle's lost. There's a little more leeway as far as trying to get those wild card spots in the NFC. However, whoever wins this game is basically in the playoffs, not officially, but they raise their playoff chances a lot, either team with a win. So Commanders are at home. Commanders, it's kind of the same. I have the same feeling as I did the week when they played and tied. The Giants are just kind of floundering.
Yeah.
The Commanders are – I don't think they're necessarily hot right now, but they're hotter than the Giants are, and they're at home. So -4.5 spread. I'm taking the Commanders to cover.
Yeah, I'm all with you there. The Giants are just banked up. Their secondary completely banked up. They just got the injury bug, unfortunately. They have had a magical season so far. They've surpassed all expectations. I thought they were going to be a 6-week team. They're sitting here right now with 7 wins with 3 more games to go. So, they're just too banged up, and it's really unfortunate to see because I was actually really pulling for the Giants. They're my favorite rival in the East right now, honestly. Mostly because I can say that because we've been able to whoop on them for the past 10 years. So,
Yeah.
But I like the Commanders here. The Commanders are just a healthier team. The Giants, they're just like you said, they're floundering around. They're kind of just desperate, and they're just not playing good team football right now. But give me the Commanders. But anyway, with all that being said, lots to look forward to this weekend in the NFL. Have fun, college students. If you're watching, enjoy your time off. Have a good holiday, guys. Christmas is coming up next week. We'll figure out if we're going to release a podcast episode then. But yeah, so give us a follow at our Instagram, our Twitter, and TikTok at 215scoop or 215scoop PSM. Merch link will be in the bio. In the description below. And thank you for tuning in, and go Birds, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, one more thing.
One more thing.
Now that we're both done the semester, we're gonna be kind of making a more concentrated effort to make the episodes a little shorter, so in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 minutes.
Yes.
And you guys should see some shorts or some TikToks or something along those lines coming your way. So the Instagram activity is going to be bumping up. So make sure you're checking the Instagram, the TikTok, keeping track of the YouTube channel with the shorts that are coming out. So that's what's in store this month and beyond.
Lots to look forward to with the new year coming up. And the Eagles end of the season. Lots to look forward to. Yeah. So we will see you guys around very soon. Hopefully next week, depending on our schedules. I'm turning 21 on Wednesday, so I got an exciting week coming up. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys soon. Go Birds.
Go Birds.